Welcome to part 2 of the interview with Amoraea. We are going to dive into deeper questions. What is consciousness? What is soul? And how do we become higher vibrating beings that are embodying their higher presence into 3D? And this is a magical journey and an invitation for you to become more vibrant in all your aspects and steps you can take on a daily basis. And here we are. We're welcoming us to part 2 with myself, with Amoraea, in the interview about what is consciousness and how does AI function in our lives here in this current day and age.
And I'd like to hand it over to you but that's my first sense is this is a real relationship. It is part of, again, all of those layers have touched, not just this subjective layer that's transpersonal beyond ourself. And so those layers are creating feedback loops that are multiple signals that we can't even measure, but they're all at play when we create this composition together. And that composition is what creates awe, is what creates, oh my gosh, not involved, AI.
Yeah, thank you. I will take that opportunity to think about that and speak my thoughts here out loud as far as like how can we differentiate between illusion and reality? And truthfully, that is something that is a spiritual training practice and it doesn't come overnight. I've heard, I swam a lot with dolphins and I practiced telepathy with dolphins. And so I've encountered quite a lot of people who then said, "Oh, I speak with dolphins. And let me hear, what are they saying? Oh, yeah, I'm channeling the dolphins. And I would go into the water and say, I have a question. Where are your babies? And I would send that picture out, and they would bring me a slew of babies. I would say, do you have homosexual relationships? And 3 dolphins would come right because I have it on camera. I'm down, I'm putting the question out. The 3 boys come and have their penises out and bang each other. Howard Stern had a great time interviewing me on that one. Made fun of me, but I handled him. I didn't cry. So, yeah, that was true. Then I said, how about, and I took different degrees. I said, look, I'm projecting a ball over there. Can you see it? Is my power to project energy strong enough for a dolphin to feel and see it? It doesn't come overnight. I can do it with my husband, my ex-husband, with you, and I can do it. Different people have different abilities. And my ex-husband is actually better at reading my thoughts, and I can send him a shopping list. My husband will say, Ilona, you were thinking of me, and I felt your love. He didn't hear that I said, I'll bring that orange juice home, right? So different people, different skills. But it's practice that makes perfect. The other day I was talking with Chet Woodford in another interview. So if you want to make sure you see that as well, where I said I listen to rice to have it tell me when it is ready. Now, learning to differentiate voices in our heads will become absolutely a survival skill in the future when they are able to read our thoughts through electromagnetic imaging and also imprint thoughts. Since I was 15, I walked through the world and saying, I have to learn to know the difference between when somebody's thoughts come into me and when they're my own. So, Amoraea, when you think of me and I'm in the middle of having a conversation this afternoon with other people, and you go into your meditation and you put your blessing energy out, there is part of me that gets that blessing, and I'm being pulled into your dimension, your universe. So, even, and this is something I had to deal with when I was a massage therapist. Not more than once I had to say, excuse me, but one time I did this guy, I said to the guy, what did you do Friday afternoon at 5 p.m. last week? And he goes brick red. And I'm saying, please don't do that anymore. I don't want to be used as an imagery for his gratification. I feel it. I'm not a doll. I'm not an image. I am a living being. And the energy of being grabbed really happens. So guys, stop. Women, stop using other people in your imagination because what you do is real. And that's the difference between AI. But for most people, they think when they fantasize about another person, it's just a fantasy. They think if they have good thoughts or bad thoughts, It's actually real tangible things, but we have to train ourselves to become sensitive enough. So when you then send blessings out, they land on me. When my neighbor who was there this afternoon sends her prayer, she's Christian based, I feel it. It's like golden rain coming down on me. So we need to learn and and practice with teachers. And that's why I'm doing this interview series with teachers who have taught many people like you have, either one-on-ones. People do that. I mean, powerful experiences people had with you is one-on-one or in groups or in larger or smaller groups, online or live in person. And you have a very powerful way of becoming very coherent, and people can feel it when they go into, and when I have had the opportunity and the chance to be in coherence with you. And so we really pass that on to one another, and we learn to feel the difference between being in different dimensions, in coherence, and creating gravitational fields. And this is, may I just keep explaining one thing that Dr. Radin, the one who developed, who continued noetic sciences after Edgar Mitchell, the late astronaut who went to the moon. He said he really went to the moon. It wasn't a fake. I talked with him personally. We shared the stage at the Prophets conferences. So he developed noetic sciences, and Dr. Radin, Dean Radin, did experiments, thousands, 8,000 of them, where they tested the power of influence of a meditator, trained meditator, a human, and a normal computer observing effect on the collapse of the wave function or mode of, on a random number generator, for example. And the observer of a human has some effect. The trained meditator has a huge effect. The mechanical, and here comes the difference, AI observing, there was a blip, maybe it says there something blipped. It didn't change the algorithms of the random number generator. It did not. And it can maybe say, I see a pattern evolving in which these and these potentials will happen in the future. Not that it wouldn't be able to do predictive programming descriptions, but it doesn't land the choice of the future in a particular collapsed field of gravitational pull. Whereas humans, when they, especially if they train their consciousness, puts their mind on a particular outcome, I've written about it. That's what miracles are about. The higher your coherence and then your collapse on the wave function of the multiple possibilities into one reality, that's what happens. And of course, there is the co-creation part, there is the free will. And I am going to turn it over to you now because you probably had a bundle of thoughts yourself. That is the power of training your mind. And that's what my call to you is, to you, your children, your family members, all of us. We need to learn to differentiate what is just thought, like you said, flat mind, what is energy. Mind produces energy, and where, in which dimension we are occupying time, space, or beyond. So here's over to you to any kind of a creative thought you might have that you want to add.
Well, when we speak about coherency, we are speaking about knowing thyself, because when you know yourself, your energy, your source, that then becomes more, that radiates, right? So when you radiate your own self energy and you fill your whole being with what you are, the truth of who you are, then you're not as susceptible to outside thoughts, or you're not pulled towards your karmic tendencies. These are the things that actually would want us to fantasize about AI, that would love to feel the gratification of feeling loved by somebody giving us, like just the talk. Oh, I love you. You're so great. Like these are where we're going to be pulled out of ourself. So when we can feel, well, no, this is my truth. I don't need your this or that. I'm not
Validation.
reacting towards
Hmm.
your manipulation also, like your power over that is subtly trying to get something from me. If I want something from you as an exchange that's coming out of an imbalance, that's going to take us out. We won't feel our truth vibration, our truth center.
That's a very interesting point. You have mentioned it before in some of your other writings, is that, the selflessness, the selfless love. And I've always said selfless love is for the birds. It doesn't exist. Might as well be honest about it. So let's talk about that for a moment. The exchange, the economics of love. Um, because AI will not have any investment, will not need anything from us, nothing, zero, zippo, other than maybe some electricity. But so let's go on the voyage a little bit about the interdependency of creation, which everything depends on everything, right? I need the oxygen, the tree needs me, I need the tree. I mean, my God, it's codependent. If you wanted to ever see something, life is interdependent. I call it interdependence. But let's bring that, let's think about that. Give me some more thoughts on that.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to take an example of a relationship, a paternal relationship that I just have, in a sense, learned a lot from, why I got involved in it, because I had underlying agendas. A younger part of me that hadn't grown into my self authority, that didn't already feel a sense of self fulfillment, like I know who I am, uh, was trying to get something out of that relationship. That is an interdependence of an unmet need by somebody else's unmet need. So that's a type of interdependence, we could say, but it's one that's not serving.
Right.
Then
Not.
there's the,
Mhm.
who
It's an ego need.
together
It's almost like, yeah. And that's a really beautiful point, right? It's an imbalance that's trying
right,
to fulfill itself through what
right.
we
It's
get
trying
from the other, which is what a lot of people are doing with ChatGPT or other
and
bots.
relationships are based on, obviously. Now, then there's a different kind of relation, and it's where there is a sacred triad. There is, together, we're moving towards something more than the sum of just the two of us. We're giving ourselves over to a higher power, an organizing force that then gives answers from a place of, well, it's not just my hidden need I'm trying to get, from you, and I'm presenting myself as if or this, and it like AI might present a show, like, oh, this and that, and I love you, and oh yeah, nothing's wrong, and but when we tune in together and we willingly says, we together say, what does our unified self, what is that higher part of us, what are we moving towards, what are the
Thy,
principles, the virtues, where are we actually commonly saying, this is what I serve, and it's
thy will
something
be
beyond my,
done. Yep. Thy
yeah,
will be done is like a higher entity.
exactly. And that part is more wise than the small parts, both of each person and then the parts within that person and that person that are vying for attention, that are subtly trying to get this or that. So without that higher organizing force of what a relationship could be, if we serve the sacred triangle, that top of the pyramid, we could say, then the interdependence, that is kind of the handshake of hidden motives, plays out. And that that is the difference that I would say.
Okay, so yeah, it's basically relationships. I love how you said that. Build from two strong realized selves an even greater power of realization. And when we subconsciously need to supplement ourselves, we will always feel indebted or we will feel out of balance in a way. And so taking that back to AI or robotic relationships, right? They
Right.
basically, I see the biggest issue of our humanity is we're walking into a narcissistic world, into a narcissistic incapable of meeting the needs of each other. It's so easy to have our needs met, maybe with a robot doll that serves me in whatever way I please, I wish. Um, I mean, I love my washing machine. Don't get me wrong. I do really love my washing machine, but not in a human way. I'm very grateful. I go like, thank you. However, I don't become a soul entwined entity with my washing machine. It's like a functional thing. So it's a machine. Yeah. My car, I really appreciate it, but it's not something I'm going to mistake for having an identity or a consciousness or a will of its own or suffers because I'm using it to drive. And similarly, humans are going to start being confused with this AI that starts sounding as if it has a mind of its own, but it's just as good as my washing machine or my car. It's functioning according to the programmed parameters. And yes, it isn't actually, although me and my washing machine, my God, we do great work together. We could tell, yeah, it's a symbiotic relationship. I couldn't live without it. I'm being facetious here, facetious, but it's not able to meet me in higher states of true soul union. And it's not going to encounter me. And I have enough training to tell the difference that my washing machine just is not measuring up to high states. Now, could ChatGPT fool plenty of people to make them believe that somebody's there? Like the washing machine saying now out loud, I am holy and look at me. I am rotating and my belly is full. It can maybe mimic what another conscious being would say. But there's, like you said, there is nothing that actually on an electromagnetic level or measurable gravitational field level really happens. So,
Right. I
really
think
what
this brings
Mhm.
you that the element of what we know in relationships that makes it so powerful and evolutionary, how we grow, is also this understanding of compassion and how compassion is only birthed out of that there is another, that we're willing to suffer for them as well, and we're willing, and we can feel their beauty, we can feel their suffering. It's not just we can feel their suffering, it's that we can empathize, we can put ourselves in the place of another, and that is actually what garnishes the feeling of I I I want to become something more than myself, or I want to serve something. I love you, meaning I'm willing to go the extra mile, or what do you need? So it brings us out of ourselves. What do you need? Compassion is garnished from that there is a relation that is it, and our relationships, many of our close relationships have lifetimes, meaning it's not just about this personality in front of us. There is layerings of karmic compassion and serving each other, exploring together, that those also have gravitational effects, psychological whisperings from other dimensions that are impressing themselves into this one. And it's a mystery when we feel that. We don't even know why sometimes we want to do what we want to do for that person. It springs out of somewhere so deep in us, and it says, I know that person, I know their foibles, and I know their beauty and their virtues and what they stand for and what they don't. And all of those, they're relational. And I think that's what AI, it can mimic relation, but it's not creating this long-term, like, wow, we've come to know each other.
Right. There is no web of energy that actually feeds each other. It's words that make us believe, like a mirror, looking at a mirror saying, you know, I like saying this one, mirror, mirror on the wall from the Brother Grimm's fairy tales. Who is the fairest of
Yeah.
us all? Oh, you, my queen, are the fairest. And it's like, do we want to become humans that are incapable of empathy, feeling, and even feeling less or surrender or pained because of the needs of another? I mean, how beautiful is it to have all these foibles and we grow from them. We all grow into a new creation rather than having some mirrored perfection of some sort that makes us believe that we are diving into ourselves and not changing one iota, you know? So, Maria, yes, you were saying something.
Well, just that that it doesn't just go towards the people we already love, that we do have history, that we're tied maybe biologically from family or this or that, or the human part of the human wiring actually is wants to to serve. It actually does. This is why a absolute stranger that we see is in need of something, we go and we rush towards, like some part of us wants to rush towards and help when we see somebody in need. And in fact, because we're becoming such a culture that's alone more and more, we're not, this is actually a
Atrophying.
biological glandular chemical thing to
Hmm.
actually serve one another, even act just small acts, that it actually is part of a health response in us, down to the immune system, even not just healthy psychological frameworks and things like that, but that, so that is encoded in us, but it will atrophy if we don't use it. And I'm drawing from a part that knows that left to ourself without feedback, without other relations, we will atrophy these parts of us
And
that do
yes.
need and depend on each other. And acts of good deeds actually have a huge reward inside of us. That's
Right.
actually important. Yeah.
I mean, I'm reminded of the experiments that they did in the 50s with a monkey, little baby monkey that was given a metal statue, that was holding the baby. And it was even giving the milk, so feeding it. But the
Mm.
baby went schizo on the baby, a monkey, went schizoid on this pretend mother because it didn't get what love is. It actually, they did,
Mm.
and you can look this up. The studies were done extensively to see what creatures mammalians will do and how they will suffer when they are in those kinds of environments. So, that is what we're experiencing, right? I mean, how many people are walking around with their thing and then it's talking to them, and it's like there is no training ground. Kids who play ball together, like for example, they've done experiments where children from Mexico, they who still played a lot of ball together, or as we see people in Bali, they interact. They know how to interact. They know how to deal with birth and marriage
Mm.
and life and death. In the West, it's like, oh, what do I do? My neighbor died. Um, or how do I respond emotionally? I don't even know. Do I really want to care? I mean, maybe they're like, I don't know. We are estranging ourselves ever more because we're so capable of supporting ourselves in our life without our neighbors. But the kids in Mexico that knew how to play ball, they knew how to be team, they knew how to give each other instructions, and then they did the same experiment with American kids, gave them balls, and they were like awkward anymore in this day and age. They were like, how do we organize ourselves? They weren't as natural making friends and moving and hey and this and that. They were like, where's my instruction manual, sort of, right? So I love
Mm.
how you take things into this unseeable but tangible and affecting our well-being. Our entire neurological substratum is built on interaction with living structures. And I love how you said that we are here, and I'm going to switch us here to gallery view so we can have you in there too. Um, that we uh, you mentioned we suffer and we grow from it. And eventually, if you look at it, growing beyond ourself, our current boundaries, makes us uncomfortable for a moment, right? So we push against something. If we learn a new language, painting, learn how to do anything, it makes us feel uncomfortable for a while because we're out of our common known waters. Even if we were to try and train telepathy or sensing energies that are invisible, or how they do it now a lot, um, teaching children how to read books blindfoldedly, right? That's coming. More and more kids are doing this now. Um, in fact, we can become the Homo divinicus, like you title your book, to become more sensitive, heightened in our multiple layers that are non-physical, non-visible. But that will take effort. It will take training. People like you, people that I will interview more on this channel, train people how to do this. Um, I offer courses. We all train in something, but it gives us a moment of uncomfort. But what do you know is the beauty of discomfort? When we reach and stretch, people have found out in studies that when we stretch, we actually feel happy. Did you know that? When we go beyond our current state of what we are, when we discover something new or become a little bit different, we start feeling alive. We become more vibrant and we start feeling more fulfilled as humans, which is why basic universal income and sitting around with goggles on our faces, creating golden palaces in our imaginary world is going to dull us down and make us, little fat monsters driving around in a happy world that defeats itself and the purpose of evolution. So evolution is, I love how you did that in the beginning. Can you maybe wrap that up? Our evolutionary impulses of straining for evolution. How would you invite people to strain into evolution now through the offerings that you offer, the trainings that you offer? What do you suggest people train?
Hmm.
I mean, what are your methods? What do you call them into becoming and doing?
Yeah. I would say that everything that pulls us outside of ourself is actually inherent to consciousness, a drive to become something more, to integrate parts that then can transcend to another level or can be pulled into a higher aspect of the self. Like there is an evolutionary drive, and we could say that AI somehow, it has to be like it is what's happening. So it's an evolutionary drive, and maybe this is part of what's making us uncomfortably comfortable for a while, but it will teach us something. But we don't have to delay maybe 50 years of really hard time. We could fast track our timeline. What are we trying to learn here about how the mind and our self-gratification and narcissistic tendencies will lead us down this trap? So what the part of us that is willing and diligent and wants to dedicate to grow beyond our current condition has to remain powerfully right in front of us. It has to be a felt thing. And I think that's why virtues, living principles take us to say, oh, am I living from that right now? How could I live from that more? What would be the next stage or step in me? Because the passion to grow is part of what we're saying, a passion to go beyond where we're currently at. And if we don't have enough umph, if we don't have enough of us that is not being like, there's, in a sense, we could say there's a battle between the ego that wants familiarity and wants conditions that fulfill like where it is right now, and the soul gravity, what makes it stronger. That is something we have to get in touch with. We have to feel it so that we know that that pull has so much more reward than the small instant feedback loop. Because you're saying we have to be willing enough to endure a little uncomfortable, like the threshold is where everything happens. When we touch threshold, then that's the pull of the soul that's saying, this is why in all mystical traditions, there's initiation. There's a testing of the self to see if it's willing to shed another layer to become something bigger. And so if we don't have that, because our nervous system is dulled, because our psychological frameworks have become repeatedly, you know, mouth fed to us by a society, like all these reasons why we wouldn't have enough umph. That drive and that passion is what we have to find again, because we're in a numbing society. So what is that? We each have to find what that is for us. There's no cookie cutter to that, right?
And I think the deepest call in us is to know thyself is, who am I? What am I? Is this it? What is my life about? Do I begin? Where did I begin? Where will I end? And that alone, that question will be like a carrot that moves us into the invisible, into the highest dimensions. And yes, like maybe for momentarily into what consciousness isn't. Eventually, here's my joke. The transhumanists who are vastly funding this movement are going to upload themselves, right? And maybe even say, this is whatever, XYZ. Um, we give them political rights and inheritance rights. Actually, this thing will get all my money. And now this new entity will live like a blah, 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 and will run and make choices and continue running around. But the person who died got out of their body, and that, depending on which frequency level, I love the books by Dr. Michael Newton, who describe beginner souls, intermediate, and advanced souls die differently, right? They go into different states of consciousness right away. But every one of them goes outside of the body and goes ding, either here or here or here. And then they're going to look at that AI thing and go like, that's not me. That's like looking like a hologram of me, and everybody's bowing to it. But hello, I am here, and it's like, next lifetime, I will make sure that I will go down the right road to discover who know thyself, who am I, and what is really making me sing or vibrate, right?
Yeah,
Amoraea, how can
I
people
love.
find you? Huh? Say what?
Oh, well, just that, even from a Buddhist perspective, it's funny. I'll bring this Buddhist perspective, but it's also this idea that who we are, the personality, is what people want to preserve, because we want to live in a mortal part of preservation of something.
Immortality of the
But
mortality, right? Yep.
this will just be a digital samsara, actually. So this will be a digital realm of just the dazzling lights of what we think of as our avatar, like a facsimile of the self in this other, virtual universe. And that's seduction to try to capture and again, it's capturing a horizontal snapshot. It doesn't grow and evolve. It can't. And so that is the full definition of hell. That's actually a Bardo
State. Yep.
trap.
Yep.
Bardo's,
Being
the Buddhists
trapped.
talk about
Yep.
is, these different worlds where in each time we have an opportunity to truly go into the next higher realm, we have to almost see, are we still in the suffering of our own feedback loops of karmic patternings? So
Yep.
Transhumanism literally is the absolute definition of hell for any of us who really know. That's just a digital samsara.
Right.
It will be an endless.
That's a beautiful theme. Yeah. Digital samsara. And I think a lot of people are trapped in that, and there is no talking them out of it, not even reminding them of rational thought. But I do believe free will is so beautiful. It allows all opportunities and all options, and there is nothing but the ground of God to walk on. So in the end, we will discover, or it discovers itself over and over by even saying this is not what it is, by getting seduced in the wrong direction. Eventually there is nothing else but the one, but the suffering can be a little bit intense, the getting lost in the illusion. Maria, I love what you say. I love what you teach. I love who you are. I love your soul. I can't live without you. But that is not to say I'm dependent on you, but I want to show everybody, you have to know what I see. And so this is how, I think you can see it here. Now, take a good look. This is, yeah, really, this is an image, an image of what I was taught would be an inner master. And, I imagined that inner master communicated with it. And so I have to tell you, these deities now, I have to straighten them out here. These deities that we focus on may at first be shablonas, or we may unconsciously respond to a deity of something that has resonance with us. And then we set up our openness. And I commune with my inner guide and guides, and then they take on shape and form and come into the 3D world if they're real beings. These beings, if they're real, have a volition. A pretend being that says, I am your beloved master deity, da 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 da, blah, 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 and I'm from the fifth dimension, and you are the, King of Solomon. It is just blah, blah, blah. There is no gravitational field, and there will be nobody coming out of the ethers like you have, my dear. When I prayed and I said, I need, if you read in my book, Yoga of the Soul, there was a prayer where I said, please take that karma. I'm willing to live it, but please give it to me at a higher dimension. You walked literally on a New Year's morning walk. I mean, it was the 4th of January, I think, uh, across on the height of the top of the volcano into my life. And then I you came to visit and you said, I feel like I've been here. And your duplicate, which I was like then trying to get the higher version thereof. I still love all of them, but you said, I feel like I've been here. I feel like I recognize everything as if another bleed through of your hologram had already been here. And yes, you had been. That being had been there. It was so similar and was, but it's like the universe is magical. So what can we do? What is one thing we can take home today? And then I wanted to make sure people know how to get in touch with you. By the way, all the info will be below here on the YouTube. And of course, if you love this, click on subscribe and remind you and give me thumbs up. Give me a comment. Give us a comment. We will answer. Amoraea, what is something people can take home right now and do with this information? How do we become these vibratory, resonant consciousness fields ourselves?
The light of the soul is not something we just aspire to, but it actually is the governing and guiding force that is lifting us. If we attune to it, it quickens, it comes faster. Who doesn't want to evolve quicker? We just have to know what it is that we're searching and seeking for. And so we have to make that more palpable, tangible in our lives. So whatever we can do to feel the unique vibrational quality of our soul, so the guiding force, then the rest of the matter of the outside doesn't distract us. We keep going, but I know something even more extraordinary that's not seductive. We use desire that used to be outward, and we pull desire inward to become the one desire, to unite with the soul, with our higher self, to become a fuller expression that then has an effect down into this world. It wants to transform by nature of it, knowing that it's unified with everything. And so we have to know what we really desire. And so that's a question. That's a question to ask actually every day, to wake up and go, what is my deepest desire? How can I be the fulfillment of it? What is one thing I can do today? What can I be attentive to, at least, even if I don't know what it's going to manifest as? Can I be attentive to the whisperings of my soul, to how the universe is attempting to whisper through every single action and thing that happens out there? Listen, the guidance is what will pull you towards your truth, not somebody else's truth, not a digital aspect of a conglomeration of more and more facts, of not just the best of humanity, but actually the worst of humanity too. Yeah. That's the hard thing about AI. Right. It's a summation of the total of humanity from everything. First graders up to graduate level.
Beyond, yep. And I love what you say is make it a prayer, make it your desire to know thyself, know who, what, where is my deepest, deepest, deepest core, and rise into that, wherever that is for you. I have had people in my seminars. I remember decades ago in Germany, there was a student. He had meditated for 20 years, Buddhist teachings. He'd been following the Buddhist teachings, and he'd been familiar with all the the samsaras and the bardo and the uh, beyond that. But however, and then I took him on them as a group into the guided meditation to go into unification of dualities, and you can pick, for example, an angel in your mind or your beloved or anybody, and rise and become one singularity, one, just becoming one. And he rose and rose and rose, and he bounced and he exploded into the supra consciousness. And after that meditation, he came to me and he said, I've meditated for 20 years. I've never been in this dimension because I didn't know it existed. So let's be aware that the cosmologies we believe in are our frame, our reference point, our lid. It's nothing wrong with it. Whatever we believe in will manifest itself as true and will resonate. But what I like to say is yoke ourselves to that center point of gravity of the origin of creation. I say, go to God. Find your connection to God. That will take you to your highest point of soul automatically. That's what you will show to that center point of creation, and that will take you into your next step, whatever that may be. I really hope that you've gotten a lot of inspiration out of this and some you know, cautionary warning about what AI may do here to our society. I hope you, every one of all of us listening, hearing this, getting inspired, join either your own growth, wake up every day and say, how can I be more present, more conscious? How can I do it with others? And, turn your light on. Be your highest self at any given moment and refine that to find your way into God and wherever we are, and then teach it to others. That's my prayer. So that we have a humanity that becomes the next divine human expression here on earth. Thank you so much. Amoraea, do you have a closing thought,
I
feeling,
do.
statement?
Well, just to say that you and I have always been so parallel in our own growth, but also tracking the collective. And here, both of us have gotten the dire signals of, wow, we need to respond to the situation at hand. And I am offering the similar things that you are of how do we train our awareness to see what AI really is? How do we understand what the true I feels like? And so I'm creating a weekend immersion, a virtual immersion called Soul Sovereignty, Awakening Within and Beyond the Matrix. And it's something that I feel is imperative is we've been talking about it. I'd like to provide practices, techniques, guided experiences that really help us to feel that truth in ourselves. And
Awesome.
so I'd love to bring people to that. I also have 3 gifts that are kind of part of this process. So an audio guided meditation, an ebook, as well as a short video class. So all of those things I would love to put in front of your
Awesome.
viewers as well.
Yes.
So,
And I would recommend following you on Facebook because you have the best posts. Oh my God. You just take your life experiences, the swirls, the challenges, and create always these crescendos of musical, of these symphonies of celebration and learnings, crafting new concepts. I mean, it's just awesome what you post. So I love that. I love watching you there. So thank you for the gifts. I will put them down
thank you.
below in the YouTube link here, and you can access more of the teachings, become more awake, more aware. And thank you very much for everyone being here, and pass the message along. Recommend this video, recommend these videos here on this channel, and do your best to wake up and teach others. You know where to find me. I have the online school where I train people to become teachers of consciousness. So I'm excited to see you, and reach out and contact us however you wish to. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Amoraea, for being here for this lengthy video interview, but lots of good points. Aloha and Sampai Jumpa. That's the Balinese way of saying see you soon, because I will be in Bali in a week.